The offer came wrapped in arrogance and laughter. Inside the golden-lit ballroom of a Manhattan mansion, billionaire Harrison Croft leaned back in his chair, swirling his glass of aged whiskey. Around him, laughter rippled through the air like champagne bubbles. Guests in glittering gowns and black tuxedos toasted to another business conquest, another empire absorbed. The Croft estate, towering over Central Park, pulsed with opulence. Then, in a voice sharp enough to slice through the music and chatter, Harrison said, "Touch this," he tapped the grand piano beside him, "and I'll give you $3 million. The crowd turned. The object of his mockery stood frozen in the glow of the chandelier, a woman in a modest gray uniform, her hands trembling around a dust cloth. Abigail Miller, the housemaid. Next to her, clutching a worn-out children's book, was her 9-year-old daughter, Chloe. The girl's blonde curls glowed faintly in the light, her wide blue eyes filled with confusion. For a moment, silence swallowed the room. Then came the laughter, cruel, indulgent laughter that echoed from marble walls and crystal glass. Harrison smirked, pleased with his own joke. "Come on, Miss Miller. Show us if the help has hidden talents." Abigail's voice shook. I don't know how to play, sir." "Then it should be easy money, shouldn't it?" His grin widened, cold and glittering. $3 million if you play this." He lifted a sheet of music from the piano stand, the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 3, a piece known even among pianists as a mountain of impossible beauty. The guests gasped, amused. Someone whispered, "He's serious?" Another said, "It's cruel." Harrison only chuckled. "Let's make it interesting. Play it well, and your cleaning days are over." Abigail felt the humiliation burn through her chest. She lowered her gaze, wishing the floor would swallow her whole. Then a soft, clear voice rose from beside her. "My mom is tired," the girl said. "But I can play it for you." Every head turned. Chloe stepped forward, small and fearless. The laughter died in midair. Harrison blinked, then let out a slow, amused breath. He asked. "You can play Rachmaninoff?" The girl nodded. He shrugged. "Why not? Be my guest. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in people who still step up when the world turns away, take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to see will restore your faith in humanity. We'd love to know, where are you watching from? Comment below with your country and region, and let us celebrate the kindness that connects us all. Let's begin. Chloe climbed onto the piano bench with effort, her small legs dangling inches from the floor. Her fingers hovered uncertainly over the keys, but her expression was calm, almost serene. Abigail's heart thundered in her chest. "Sweetheart," she began, but her voice faltered. The guests whispered to one another, expecting chaos. A child hammering meaningless notes, another cruel joke to complete the night's entertainment. Then Chloe pressed the first key. A single, resonant note filled the hall, pure, powerful, vibrating through marble and glass. Then another and another. The notes began to flow, weaving into melody, then into thunder. Conversations died. Laughter vanished. Chloe's small hands moved with grace no one could explain, as though the piano had been waiting for her all along. The air shimmered with the music's power. Each chord struck like lightning, alive with emotion. Abigail froze, tears sliding down her cheeks. She had heard that melody before, late at night, when she hummed lullabies to her daughter. Chloe had always listened, her head resting on her mother's shoulder. But this was something divine. The child played with intensity that felt ancient, as if the soul of Rachmaninoff himself had found refuge in her tiny hands. When the last note fell into silence, the room stood utterly still. No one breathed. No one dared move. Then, somewhere in the crowd, a man rose. It was Edward Davidson, one of New York's most respected patrons of classical music. His eyes glistened as he began to applaud, slow, reverent, awestruck. Others joined him, their applause swelling until it became thunder. Chloe slid off the bench and looked at her mother, her expression shy, almost confused by the attention. Abigail ran to her, kneeling to hold her close. "The promise." But one man didn't move. Harrison Croft sat frozen, the color drained from his face. The laughter that had once filled his mansion now turned against him, echoing in his mind like a curse. He could feel every gaze burning into him, waiting for him to speak. Then came the voice of Evelyn Reed, a journalist from the New York Observer, her phone raised, recording everything. "Mr. Croft," she said, "you made a promise, $3 million if she played. Are you going to honor it?" Every eye in the room swung toward him. Harrison's jaw tightened. His mind raced, 1,000 excuses, denials, lies ready to spill. But every word died in his throat. He couldn't take it back. Too many witnesses. He rose slowly, adjusting his cufflinks, forcing a thin smile. "Of course," he said smoothly. "A deal's a deal." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a checkbook, and scribbled his signature. The pen nearly snapped in his hand. When he looked up, his mask of charm slipped. "Who taught you that?" he demanded, his voice sharp now, cutting through the awe. "No child plays Rachmaninoff like that." "Who trained you?" Abigail stepped forward. "No one, sir. I only sang to her. She learned from listening." Harrison laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "Nonsense. A maid teaching a prodigy? Don't insult my intelligence." Chloe spoke softly. "Mom sings the stories and I play what I hear." The murmurs began again, hushed, reverent, confused. Edward Davidson approached the child, his voice trembling. "And what story does this music tell you, my dear?" Chloe tilted her head, thoughtful. "It's about a man far from home," she said. "He misses the river where he used to play. He feels alone. But he keeps going because he remembers the way back." Her words, simple and pure, pierced the room with a truth that no adult could have invented. Evelyn's camera kept rolling. The hidden past. At that moment, Abigail noticed Harrison's expression change. His confidence cracked. He looked pale, shaken. The name, Miller, had struck something deep within him. His family had a history, one carefully buried under layers of power and money. During the post-war years, his grandfather had acquired rare artworks and manuscripts from Europe, treasures with murky origins. One of them had been a lost Rachmaninoff manuscript. The very same one now resting on his piano. The melody Chloe had just played wasn't just famous, it was impossible. It wasn't the published Concerto No. 3. It was the lost section, rumored to have disappeared during World War II. Evelyn Reed sensed the tension. Her journalist's instincts sharpened. "Mr. Croft," she said slowly, "where did you get that sheet music?" Harrison didn't answer. Cameras clicked. Guests whispered. The air became electric with scandal. Davidson's voice broke the silence. "That piece was thought to be lost for nearly 80 years. If that manuscript is genuine..." Evelyn finished for him. "Then we're standing in front of stolen history." Harrison's throat tightened. He looked from the girl to the guests to the cameras that now surrounded him. "You have no idea what you're talking about," he hissed. But his voice lacked conviction. Evelyn turned her phone toward the piano. "Oh, I think we do." The crowd began to shift, restless, murmuring with judgment and awe. Harrison's empire was crumbling in real time. At last, he tore the check from his book and threw it onto the piano. "Take it," he spat. "Take the damn money and get out." The paper fluttered down like a wounded bird. The number was obscene, $3 million, signed and sealed. Abigail stared at it. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. That money could erase every debt, every hospital bill, every sleepless night. It could buy her daughter a future. But something in her heart refused. She looked up at Harrison, her voice calm but steady. "No, Mr. Croft. We don't want your money." The room gasped. She set the check back on the piano. "What we want is the music." It doesn't belong to you. Chloe nodded, holding her mother's hand. It's not your story to keep. The silence that followed was absolute. Harrison stared at them, stunned. A man who had built his empire on fear and obedience now faced with something he couldn't control: integrity. Abigail turned, leading her daughter toward the door. Phones were raised, cameras flashing, but she didn't look back. Every step they took sounded louder than the last, until the great doors of the Croft mansion closed behind them. The aftermath. By morning, the video had spread across the internet. The maid's daughter who played the lost Rachmaninoff. The billionaire's broken promise. The girl who played truth. Millions watched as a child at a piano humbled one of New York's most powerful men. Investigations followed. Journalists dug into the Croft family archives, uncovering proof that the manuscript indeed traced back to Europe during the war. What had been hidden in a vault for decades now belonged to history once more. Harrison tried to fight it, to deny, to silence, to sue. But it was too late. His empire began to fracture, sponsors withdrew, his name became synonymous with arrogance and deceit. And through it all, one image haunted him: the little girl at his piano, her eyes clear and fearless, her fingers singing the truth he had tried to bury. A new beginning. For Abigail and Chloe, life changed, not with sudden wealth, but with recognition. Edward Davidson arranged for Chloe to play at the New York Philharmonic's Winter Gala. She sat at the same kind of grand piano that once symbolized their humiliation, but now, it felt like home. Abigail watched from the wings, tears in her eyes, as her daughter's hands danced over the keys once more. The audience listened, spellbound, not just to a performance, but to a story, the story of courage, dignity, and redemption told through music. When the last note faded, the hall erupted in applause that shook the rafters. Chloe smiled shyly, bowed, and whispered to her mother later, "Mom, I think the music found its way back." Abigail hugged her tight. "Yes, sweetheart," she said softly. "It did." Months later, a new plaque was unveiled at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Rachmaninoff, Concerto No. 3, The Lost Movement. Recovered through the performance of Chloe Miller, 9, daughter of Abigail Miller. Below it, in smaller letters, donated anonymously by Harrison Croft. No cameras were there that day. No applause. Only quiet redemption. Harrison stood at a distance, coat collar turned up against the winter wind. He watched as Abigail and Chloe approached the exhibit, their reflections merging with the glass. When Chloe looked up, their eyes met, just for a second. She smiled, a soft, forgiving smile that reached right through him. He nodded once, silently, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. The girl took her mother's hand. They stood there, side by side, listening to the faint notes of the concerto playing over the museum speakers, the same melody that had changed everything. It no longer belonged to the rich, the powerful, or the cruel. It belonged to everyone. And in that music, the world could finally hear what Chloe had heard all along. A man far from home, finding his way back. Which part of this story touched you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, so you won't miss any of our next emotional stories.